Welcome to the Mindful 24, and thank you for connecting to this channel, to this page. And I want to say, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our page, make comments as well, because it's going to be very helpful to what we do, and so it could reach out to other people. As you always know, I would come around here with information that I think would be beneficiary to you, and sometimes I would give you real life experiences from my own view, and would also share other people's experience. I would cite sources, and other times I may not cite sources, but however, I would always give out information. Firstly, I would want to say that my heart goes to people who are dying all over the world, be it in Gaza, be it in Asia, be it in Africa, and so many other places. Be it genocide or whatever motivated killings is going on, I think at some point in life we should call a spade and stop the killing. Now, having said that, why are we here today? We're here today because we will be talking about something I think would be interesting. Yes, I think it's going to be interesting. You would like it. It would help you think deep, and it will give you a sense of direction as you go on in life. I believe so. Having said that, I would like to say that our topic for today, which I will be speaking to, is the challenges and healing processes to trauma or traumatic experiences and post-traumatic experiences. The challenges and healing processes to traumatic experiences or to trauma and post-traumatic experiences, some disorder. Now, I would be bringing the participation of different factors to the healing processes and to the healing process of trauma and traumatic experiences. However, so I want you to understand that. However, I would also talk about the challenges, and I would not leave out challenges that may be personal to me. So this episode or this show or this discussion may roll over to a second episode, more like, but I don't think it's going to be more than 2 episodes. So this could be seen as episode 1 and another one will be seen as episode 2. But I'm just letting you know that this is what is going to be happening. So quickly, what is the topic for today? The topic for today is, simply put, like I said, challenges and healing processes to trauma or traumatic experiences and post-traumatic experiences or disorder. My name remains Israel, and my name is Israel. How would I go about this? I would first of all start with the challenges. I would highlight challenges that I think, based on experiences, personal experiences, and working with people who have experiences, who have been able to open their heart to me to share their deepest thoughts. Now, I would not be mentioning names, and I would not be going into people's personal details, but I will be speaking to what I know and I'm sure of is information that is common to this group of people or to every person who is going through a traumatic experience or who has gone through a traumatic experience and the challenges being faced and the healing processes. Now, there may be more challenges being faced by people going through traumatic experiences. I will just mention the one I know and I have, and I think you would appreciate it. If you have criticisms and questions, you could ask them in the comment sections and I would try to answer. However, I would like that you also take time to listen to this video, this content, so you may not need or necessarily need to ask questions, because I may even answer those questions as we go on, just in case you want to ask a question and I have already answered the question. So if you ask me a question and I know that question has been answered, I may not answer it again. I will just move ahead and respond to other people. But if the question has not been answered, I will definitely answer it so that you are satisfied, and as much as I can. So, challenges of traumatic experiences. I want to say that the challenges of people with traumatic experiences or post-traumatic experiences cannot be overemphasized. These are important events going on in people's life, and people do not really know how to communicate them or communicate how they would really, or how they feel, or how they would want to get those helps and support that is needed for their life. And this cuts across males and females. When I mean it cuts across male and females, I mean it cuts across all classes of people, male, female, and also people with different genders. It cuts across. So just so you are aware, it cuts across. It is a big issue that many people overlook, and I don't think we should overlook such issue anymore. I think we should speak to it and address it as quick as possible. So, what are the first challenges? Now, I have my book here because I had to write this down. I didn't want to I know them, they are part of me, but I needed to document this for posterity purposes. Because I'm doing, and I'll be revisiting it and I'll be reviewing it over and over again. But for now, this is how much information that's available that I'm going to be giving out. So the first challenges that I have noticed that people with trauma go through is, first of all, the confusion of saying no without verbally saying no. What does this mean? Any person who has gone through an event in their life that has resulted to a pain, that has resulted to grief and frustration, that has resulted to loss of self-worth, or that has resulted to low self-esteem, or that has resulted to seeing themselves as not important within their community and their society. or even seeing their bodies, as of less value and less importance to them over other things, are people who have or who are experiencing traumatic experience, or who have encountered or had a trauma before. And when these people have gotten this trauma, whenever they say no to things, they may be scared of saying no verbally in a very calm, comfortable, authoritative mode. They could either be saying no angrily to a high proportion, or they may be saying no with their action. Most times the reason why they cannot say no verbally, and that is why I call it the confusion of saying no without saying no verbally, because people do not understand that they are saying no. The reason why they don't say no and why people are confused about people with traumatic experience saying no without you knowing they are saying no is the fact that they have tried to say no in the past before their traumatic experience or before that episode in their life, and they were not listened to. They were defiled, they were abused, they were molested, and they were treated in ways that was inhuman. They were treated in ways that was not divine. They were treated in ways that was destructive. And for those of you who, and I know some of you would be reminiscing on these things that I'm saying, and you'll be able to connect dots to dots if you know how to connect dots to dots, and you'll be able to see how people have tried to say no without saying no. Let me give you an example. Of what I mean. You know, women most times are people who have gone through, or who usually have their experiences more pronounced than males. And if you notice, part of the communication of a female could be non-verbal. It could be the mom, the pauses. So she may want to say no, but she may be saying no in a different way. She may be saying things like, I don't like it. That kind of a way. And that pause is a signal of a no. I don't think that looks, I'm going to enjoy. I don't think I'm going to like that. I don't think I'm going to like that. I feel a bit weird about that. That is a way of saying no. But I'm using that as an example for you to understand what I mean by the fact that people with traumatic experiences say no without verbally saying no. And the challenges they face is the fact that people do not understand that they are saying no because they may not verbally be able to say no. And sometimes they may be angrily or violently saying no, and you would not understand that the reason why they manifest in that way is because they tried saying no in a more polite way many years ago before their traumatic experience, but they were not listened to. That is one of the challenge. I'm not going to go deep into it anymore, but that is one of the challenge. Another challenge is the fear of explaining your experience and not properly properly understood by people. Or let me put it this way, the fear of explaining your experience without properly articulating that experience for people to understand. There is going to be an incoherent communication of people who go through traumas or who have gone through traumas. And when I mean an incoherent communication, I mean that they may not be able to speak fully of their experience. I went through an experience many years ago, between the ages of 10 to 15, 16. And for many years, I could not speak of it. But when I began to recover, or even when I spoke of it in a very fast manner, with no eye contact. And I would sometimes summarize it. Now, you must not make a mistake, because some people, the reason why they summarize their experience is not because they're not recovered from it. It's because they're not sure if you would be able to handle their story. They're not sure if you'll be able to hold their story, appreciate it, and stay with them. That is the reason why. So it is good you don't miss the two, or you don't mix up the two, of thinking that, oh, if a person summarizes their story, then it means they are not recovered from their traumatic experience. No. It could be that way, but it could also be that they've recovered, but they're not sure that you can handle it. And if they're not sure that you can handle it, it's because they know that you would freak out and you would run away. Which would lead me to speak about why I keep on saying that people do not understand the concept of love. And they mean love to be whatever, I don't know where they got that understanding from. To be fair with them, I like the fact that they got their understanding of love from somebody, from a particular place, from wherever. It is important, but I would still come to talk about that concept of love. I've talked about it before, but I'll come again and talk about it, and I've given you examples, experiences, and instances why I believe love is not what you think it really is. But I said before that love is a person, right? Yeah, I said that before. If you watch my videos, I've been consistent with that. Love is a person. So that is the reason why they're scared. They're scared for you. They're not scared for themselves. They're scared for you. So sometimes they could be scared for themselves and be scared for you. That is when they are not recovered. But when they are recovered from their traumatic experience and they are now whole, when they are now whole, they are not scared for themselves. They are scared for you. So that is another challenge people face that go through traumatic experience. Another challenge that people face that will go through traumatic or that have gone through traumatic experience or have traumatic experiences is the stage of silence and shouting. Now, this is a very funny stage. It's a very funny stage. It is a stage of silence and shouting, and it could mean two different things. It could mean other things, but this is just what I have experienced. It could mean, and I have tested and I have found to be this. It could mean the silence and the shouting from people who have gone through traumatic experience could mean two things. It could mean the silence or the shouting or the silence could mean that, you know what, I don't want to share this information with you. Just go away. You have shown me you don't have a capacity or the capacity to handle it. Just go away. Don't waste your energy. Just go away. Now, on a second note, or if you look at it or if you flip the coin, it could mean that they are testing you to be sure if you really want to know what they've been through. Especially for the fact that, especially if you had blanked out when they told you one of their experiences. Especially if you have. They would want to double check that you would not act in the same way. So they would do that. And they would not do that once, they would do that several times. And when they do that several times, if you're not true, they'll weary you and you fizzle out. So that is another challenge that people with traumatic experience would go through. Another challenge that people with traumatic experience would go through is the destruction and damage of their mental, spiritual, and self-worth of their person. Now, people who have gone through or who have experienced a trauma, any form of trauma, I mean any form of trauma. If you listen to the early part of this video, I'd mentioned different types of some kind of trauma or different things you can use to know that you have gone through a trauma. I've cited it before. Now, these people have gone through either a spiritual, a physical, a mental, or a self-worth damage. They have a challenge of such. Now, this is for people who may have not recovered from their traumatic experiences. If you've recovered from your traumatic experiences, you would be whole. No part of you would be damaged. No. You would find that you are whole. Now, if you have not recovered from your trauma, one of these parts may be damaged. Is it possible to identify the parts that are damaged or that is damaged? Yes. That is for another day. That is for another content. But one part of them or some part of them is damaged. It's either the mental, the physical, or the spiritual. And sometimes it could be all of it. That is another challenge they go through. Now, one large challenge that people with traumatic experiences go through is what is called the transgenerational impact. The transgenerational impact of unhealed or unresolved traumatic experiences and post-traumatic experiences disorder. So they go through a transgenerational. And what do I mean by transgenerational? Let me give you an example of what I mean by transgenerational. And I want to give an example that cuts across geographical locations so that you would be able to understand. Now, from the Western perspective of traumatic experience, or we like the transgenerational impact of traumatic experiences, you would find that if your parents were from a family of violence and divorce, a broken home, and then you were not in the care of neither your father nor your mother, who are now separated. When you go on in life, unless you're in the care of someone else, maybe in some governmental care or whatever care, or maybe some distant relative. Now, when you go on in life, that which happened to your parents is most likely to happen to you, because you already have grief in you. You already have sorrow in you. You already have pain in you. You already have the fear of what happened to them could happen to me. Most especially when you are now being told that you are behaving like your father, or you're behaving like your parents. Or maybe when you are being told that you're not going to amount to anything. You're just going to end up like them. Or even maybe when you are treated in a very disrespectful way by people who are supposed to care for you. And so you go on in life with that, especially when you're not healed, when you've not resolved that traumatic experience. You go on in life, and then for whatever version of story you got from your mom or your dad, that is if you got both sides of the story. If you got one side of the story, that would now affect you to manifest in a different way in the future. But if you get both sides of the story, there is a different way you manifest that could help you not make that happen again. But that is if the story being given to you is given to you out of love and not out of hatred from your dad to your mom, or from your mother to your dad. It's very, very important. Those are the challenges that I have identified so far that people with traumatic experiences go through. Next time, I would come and speak about the healing processes. This video is over 30 minutes and I would not want to continue because I don't want to bore you. I would come back and speak on the healing processes, and I would be hitting it very hard. I would now come afterwards to give my own experiences. You can recover and you can be healed from your traumatic experiences without anyone showing you pity at any point in time. You can. I am certain you can. I am certain you can. Thank you very much for watching the Mindful 24. Please do not neglect liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channels and to our contents. Also make comments. I enjoy if you make comments. Even if you were going to insult me in the comment, please do so. It makes a bit of sense, at least you made a comment. So please, if you do that for me, thank you. I really appreciate it. But make a comment, make reasonable comments, just so we could engage. So thank you very much for watching the Mindful 24, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.